Hello, everyone. My name is Ezra, otherwise known as E Soup, and we are reaching the halfway point of Volume 8 of Ballad of Sword and Wine after we finish today. So that is very exciting. As we get closer to the end, I just get more excited and also more nervous for what is going to happen and how the heck the story is going to be wrapped up. Um, So just another reminder of that. Um, and today we are reading chapters 273 to 276. Also, it should be fine. I did a speed test, but I'm at my parents' place and they have new internet and they don't have like an extender, a Wi-Fi extender for upstairs. So I think the signal will be fine. I'm just hopefully there won't be any issues with that because it's slower upstairs than it is downstairs, but it still seems fine. Hi, Blue. Hi, Lon Jade. Hi, Vase. Yeah, Blue, as you said, time is not real. um, that's valid. No, I have trust. I have trust in Tong Ching that she's going to wrap up this novel in a very satisfactory way. But I'm just not. I don't know. And when I try to like figure out like, okay, where is this plot line going and like what is gonna happen, I have no idea. Um, so yeah, so far the signal seems fine, so I think we're good. Um, so I'm trying to remember what happened at the end last time. There was quite a lot of there was quite a lot of like Chudu drama. Oh yeah, and Shi Juyin finally was like, "No, I'm not going to help you." I remember that happened. But yes, Blue, I know you were saying like we're not seeing enough of Sijo, and we need more of them. Um, my thoughts there are probably like there's going to be a lot more action to get us towards the end, and then at the very end, when certain things are resolved, we will finally see more of them together again. But it's true, we've been jumping around a lot and looking in at a lot of different places and people and seeing how they're doing. Um, so yeah, I think, oh, that's right. So Shui Shoujo was plotting something at the very end of the last chapter and kind of saying that like Shenzichuan is going to be in danger. We're going to cut off like a trade route and try to cut off their access to grain. So again, grain becomes a central plot point and a central problem. Hi Henry, hi Cookie. So that will be interesting. There's always I feel like normally our main characters are always like one or two or three steps ahead. But I worry about the moment that they won't be. You said, yeah, Blue, all QJJ is grain and Unix. What's happening again? The thing with the grain or something else? Um, so today we are starting on page 157. Oh, you said it's happening a grain. I didn't even notice that. Okay, yes. Yeah, the grain. Um, we're on page 157 for chapter 273, which is called Reveal. And I'm like, what are we revealing now? The land to the east of Gedal was called Three Rivers, a name derived from the three wide rivers that flowed ceaselessly through the desert. Miles of barren shores and craggy rocks were adorned only by stands of desert poplars. It was already dark within the walls of Chudu, but twilight lingered here on the open sands. Xiao Chia pillowed his head on his arms and watched the last of the sun disappear below the horizon. The sky in Three Rivers was so vast that if one were to lie on the sandy ground and watch for a long time, they would feel as though they were enveloped in the arms of heaven itself. The viscous gold of the sunset flowed into the earth like honey. Meng landed beside Xiao Qie and hopped onto his chest. Xiao Qie spat out the stalk of grass in his mouth. Hey, you're heavy, Goga. Not him calling Meng Goga. Meng cocked his head at him. Xiao Qie freed a hand to ruffle Meng's feathers. He whistled at Snowcrest, who was drinking at the stream, and beckoned the horse over to take Meng away to play. Snowcrest shifted its front hooves and turned its rump to him, then continued drinking. I love the idea of Snowcrest and Meng just like being buddies. The armored cavalry had been camped here for several days. Lu Guangbai took off his helmet and brushed sand off himself as he walked over. Commander Xiao. Lu Guangbai's neck was sticky with sweat. He followed Xiao Qie's gaze toward the horizon. Relaxed, aren't you? Not at all. I'm actually miserable. Xiao Qie pointed west with the hand he'd used to stroke Meng. My wife is out there, washing his face in tears every day as he awaits my return. Note that down, Lu Guangbai said to Chen Yang, tossing the helmet to him. Report it to your prefectural governor when you get back, and we'll see whose face is awash in tears. Xiao Qie waited for Lu Guangbai to sit down before asking, what did the Meng Luo tribe say? The same old. Lu Guangbai propped his hands on his knees. Bayir is determined to betroth his daughter to you. If you refuse, he'll decline the alliance with the Libe armored cavalry. Bayir, that damned old camel. The sand on Xiao Qie's back slid off as he sat up. He looked at Lu Guangbai. He only wants to give me his daughter because he's afraid I'll cast him aside after he's served his purpose. He's trying to tie me down with a woman. If I were really that untrustworthy, I'd kill him even if he gave me his own wife. Lu Guangbai pointed at Xiao Qie. This is how you looked when you met him. Of course he's scared. Xiao Qie raised his eyebrows slightly. It's not like I'm here to beg. Go on being stubborn, then, Lu Guangbai said. The territory of the Meng Luo tribe is right at the mouth of the Western River. If we can't win over Bayir before advancing on Amur, we risk them attacking us from behind. Xiao Qie folded his arms. Then you tell him I have a ferocious tiger back home. I'm but a henpecked husband. Oh, goodness. I think this is the first that we're hearing of this. Yet another just wrench in everybody's plans. Hi, Nina. He's already prepared his daughter's dowry. He's just waiting for her to marry into your family, where she'll show proper respect to your mistress of the house. Lu Guangbai was so anxious he couldn't help but laugh. Everybody loves Xiao Cian. Bayir had previously set his heart on Hasen as a son-in-law, but Hasen had insisted on marrying Dorlan of the Hulu tribe, snubbing the Meng Luo tribe. When Xiao Qie had proposed an alliance a few days ago, Bayir had stood on the sand dunes and taken note of Xiao Qie's impressive stature and distinguished air. What was more, Xiao Qie was a leader of the wolf pack in Libe and had slain Hasen himself. It was no wonder Bayir had thought to marry his daughter to him. The Hulu tribe already retreated to the banks of Lake Chiti. Why are they back in the fray? You killed Hasen, Lu Guangbai said. His wife rode east and brought back the warriors of the Yoxiong tribe you broke up, then pleaded with her fellow tribesmen who'd retreated to Lake Chiti to help Amor again. Dorlan stood before the eagle banner of the desert and swore to kill you. Xiao Qie remembered the flower that had floated away on the Chasha River the day Hasen had died. Also, the smile slipped from Lu Guangbai's face. Dorlan was expecting before she headed east. That's Hasen's child. Xiao Qie secured his arm guard in silence. The final rays of the setting sun vanished, and a brief stillness crept over the sky. The dome of heaven hung heavy and blue overhead, without sun or moon. Blue, did you just say I just hope Dorlin is not pregnant? And then I just said that right after you. Oh my God, I can't believe your timing. Um, the cry of a falcon cut through the flapping banner. Long hair fluttered in the wind under the wide blue sky as Dorlin laid a hand over her belly. Bayim covered Dorlin with a thick robe. It's cold at night. You should go back. My husband is in the west. Head held high, Dorlin watched an eagle skim past on the wind. She said softly, "When will my heroic eagle return?" Bayim couldn't bear to see her like this. His eyes prickled with tears. The wolves of Li Bei bit my elder brother to death, and now they've taken my husband, too. Hatred settled in Dorlin's emerald eyes. Bayim, he's here to kill my child. Covering her belly, she took 2 steps back and said, "I have to protect this babe. The Esuhuri won't let Xiaoqie hurt you." Bayim softened his voice, "And neither will your father. The desert will work together to protect you and Hassan's child." "You're wrong, Bayim. Look at the desert with those wise eyes of yours. 3 tribes have already knelt to his armored cavalry." Dorlin's figure was swamped by the loose robe. Her sharp chin sank into its folds as tears pooled in her eyes. To broker a truce, Bagheer is willing to give his own daughter away to our enemy. Only Hassan can protect me. Sadness flashed across Bayim's tanned face. I was deceived by the Yoshong tribe and failed to accomplish the mission Hassan entrusted me with. I was Hassan's wise one, yet I didn't lead him to the glory he deserved. But now that Xiaoqie has come to the desert, Dorlin, we will take our revenge. Bayim unfastened the dagger at his waist. He weighed it in his palm, then handed it to Dorlin. "This I swear." Oh, okay. I saw what was ahead of the scene break for a second, and for a split second, I thought they had intercepted a letter from Shen Zichuan, but it does not look like that's what happened. Okay, there's a scene break. "To my wolf pup, greet this letter as you would me. Our bed in Suzhou sits empty these days. I've been staying in tents with the army. I barely sleep." Perched by the campfire, Xiaoqie looked at the words on the paper, the forlorn ache in his chest dissolving into the bitter sweetness of knowing he was missed. When they were together, Lanzhou only fell asleep on his chest. It didn't matter how soft the bed was. Without him, Lanzhou always slept poorly. Xiaoqie picked up a skin of on horseback and took a swig, extinguishing the pain in his chest before it could overwhelm him. He continued reading as he drank. "Xian Sheng left me a blade. Xiao Chengbi, a former minister of the court, was killed in battle. Everything in Shudu is in order and under control, so don't worry. A long-distance expedition is arduous. You must take care of yourself. Arlong, if we win this battle, we will never part again in the years to come. Not for a day, not for a moment. A warm spring bed awaits your homecoming this winter. I shall sleep thinking of you." Oh, just kill me now. Xiaoqie set down the wineskin and looked at the bottom of the letter, where Shen Zichuan had drawn a fox with drooping ears and tail. He couldn't help but smile. Lu Guangbai flung a taro at Xiaoqie, who caught it easily. "It's almost the 11th month." Lu Guangbai peeled his own taro and took a bite. "How do you plan on dealing with the Hmong Luo tribe?" The Hmong Luo tribe was in a unique position. Their chief, Bayir, owned many camels, from which the tribe took their totem. If they were to side with Amur, it would resolve Amur's current food shortage. Neither Li Bei's nor Qidong's horses were suitable for long journeys through the desert. On the other hand, if Bayir could lead the Hmong Luo tribe into throwing in with the Li Bei armored cavalry, It would not only aid their transportation of supplies during the war, but also benefit trade markets in the future. Since he's so afraid I'll turn against him after the alliance, Xiaoqia opened the bag that had come with the letter, filled with beef jerky, and tossed a second bag with a Lu on it to Lu Guangbai. I'll just go ahead and do that now. Lu Guangbai had already tried being polite. Xiaoqia saw no need to continue with the pleasantries. He had 90,000 armored cavalry, 10,000 men from the Imperial Army, and 20,000 Bianjun Commandery garrison troops. He hadn't come here to negotiate a peace. He had already dangled the carrot in front of the Mengluo tribe. If the camels continued to put on airs, he was ready to use the stick. Tell by year, Xiaoqia went on as he popped a piece of beef jerky into his mouth. I'm in a hurry to get home for the new year. If he wants to go down with Amor, I'll send him on his way tonight. Chen Yang nodded and left to pass the message on. The capital troops had withdrawn, leaving not a single soldier in Dancheng. When the Dunzhou garrison troops entered the city, the whole place was silent as a graveyard. Countless rumors circulated about the prefectural governor of Zhongbo, Shen Zichuan. Some inspired fear, others respect. Many commoners huddled within the city, while others had fled to Chudu the night of the capital troops' defeat. Even Tan Tai-hu was cognizant of their need to win over the people here. This time, he didn't dare to be sloppy. He gave strict instructions for the garrison troops to behave. After coming to grief thanks to the conniving Liu Kong, he personally led his brothers from the Imperial Army to maintain order within the city. Yao Wenyu, after more than a month bent over a desk, was getting some air with Shen Zichuan outside Dancheng. Examining the mottled marks on the city wall, he said, "We were fortunate here. Luo Mu has already arrived in Hezhou with his garrison troops. From here on out, Chudu will be a tough nut to crack. I heard today that Qi Shiyu has sent 3 letters to his daughter, urging Marshal Qi to return from Tianfei Watchtower. Qi Shiyu lies paralyzed and is unable to lead troops. Shen Zichuan was basking in the sun on this rare bright day. None of the men in his house can hold a candle to Qi Juyin, even if he wants to dismiss her from her position as marshal. He won't be able to strip her of her power." Qi Juyin was the most vital organ of Qidong, and therefore its greatest vulnerability. Rather than try to strong-arm Qi Shiyu, they would have to appeal to his heart. Qi Shiyu is a fence-sitter who wavers between the noble clans and those from common origins. As long as your lordship is willing to promise him what he wants, Yao Wenyu turned the wheelchair, he will understand that the merit in aiding a new emperor's ascent is far greater than guarding a dying throne. Xiao Chengbi's defeat had thrown Chudu into chaos. Shen Zichuan had to seize his chance now to control the narrative. Wonderful. Shen Zichuan's legitimacy was in question, but so was Li Jianting's. Qi Shiyu is an old hand. He understands the risks better than anyone. If I speak on the merit in helping a new emperor onto the throne, he might not dare to accept it. Shen Zichuan's back was so straight as he walked that it was hard to tell he'd ever been injured. It seems Shui Shoujuo wants Luo Mu. Well, he can have him. If Chudu wanted the pawn Luo Mu, Shen Zichuan wouldn't begrudge the loss. Shen Zichuan was the one who had opened the granaries in Chazhou and distributed the grain. He had also been the one to eliminate Cai Yu. The revitalization of trade that had followed had been thanks to Shen Zichuan's aid. Luo Mu ran so fast precisely because he could not pry Shen Zichuan's fingers off Chazhou. And since he used to serve Cai Yu, all he could take with him now were rootless bandits. But in exchange, I want Jiang Qingshan. Shen Zichuan looked back at him. The question now is whether Xue Xiuzhuo can bear to give him up. Interesting. An exchange of sorts. A pall seemed to hang over Chidu as the 10th month drew to a close. The streets grew deserted. News that the rebels had fought their way to Dancheng had spread through the capital. If not for the presence of the capital troops still stationed in the city, riots might have broken out. Even with patrols on the streets, restlessness filled the air. Kong Qiu had donned a thicker robe as the days grew colder. As they strode toward the palace, he said to Chen Yu, "Winter will come early this year." Chen Yu looked up at the leaden sky. At that moment, he couldn't tell if Kong Qiu was talking about the weather or their Zhou Empire. He sighed. "Let's go." I wrote Qi Shiyu a letter. He had his son write a reply, Kong Qiu said as they ascended the steps. "He says he's too ill to even get out of bed." "The aggravation of his illness certainly is timely," Chen Yu scoffed, lifting the hem of his robe as they climbed. Remember when we were like, did Qi Juyan or did Hua Xiangyi do something to Qi Shiyu to make him sick? I'm starting to wonder about that again. If, like, his illness is getting worse at this time and they just pointed out that it sure is timely, I'm like, okay. Kong Qiu slowed his pace. Qi Shiyu is a sly old fox. Sure, he trims his sail to the wind, but it's more that he's playing it safe to save his own skin. Being bedridden didn't prevent him from learning Qi Juyan refused to deploy her troops. Yet he waited for us to write him before condemning her. He sighed. This is his way of haggling. Just you wait. When Her Majesty really gives him what his heart desires, he'll be too cowardly to accept it. We need to send a good negotiator. Kong Qiu strode over the threshold. I originally thought of Chong Shen, but he doesn't have the experience to hold his own with Qi Shiyu. After considering our options, I think Wan Xiao is still the most suitable choice. Wan Xiao. I do not remember who that is. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, they were just about to tell me. Only when Chen Yu heard Jiang Qingshan's name did he remember the letter he'd received. Okay, so I guess that's Jiang Qingshan's courtesy name. And if Jiang Qingshan is sent to negotiate, but if Shen Zichuan somehow manages to get his hands on him as someone on his side, which he wants to do, then that will be interesting. Wan Xiao just sent word that his wife is with child. He probably won't be making any long trips at the moment. The court lacks talent. If he refuses to go, Shen Zichuan will be at our doorstep before we know it. Kong Qiu pointed toward the palace walls. I've heard Wan Xiao's mother is a lady of great virtue. If he won't budge, perhaps we should get in touch with the old matriarch. And if that doesn't work, Wan Xiao can bring his wife along. Jiang Qingshan's wife, Liu Nyang, had only just conceived after many losses. Having been nursed back to fertile health by a wandering physician, Jiang Qingshan particularly treasured this gift. Question: who is the wandering physician? I don't know if there's anything there, but I'm questioning everything, so however, he could not disobey a direct order from the imperial court. That's what I'm wondering. It could be another doctor because our bald kid can't be in two places at once. So I'm not sure about the timeline, if that makes any sense, but I am kind of like side-eyeing it. However, he could not disobey a direct order from the imperial court. The journey was long, and he was initially unwilling to subject Liu Nyang to the hardship of travel. But if he left Liu Nyang at home, he didn't know what kind of grief his mother would give her. After much thought, he decided to bring her along. The same day Jiang Qingshan set off Jiran set out on his journey as well. Ding Tao had brought Jiran to Qidong to call on Qi Juyan, who had rushed home from Tianfei Watchtower to receive a tongue lashing. Okay, interesting. His lordship said he heard the old marshal and the mistress have been in ill health lately. Ding Tao bowed to Qi Juyan. His lordship has nothing of value to give, so he had me bring his personal physician to look at them. Qi Juyan looked at Jiran and found him completely tranquil, not at all timid in her presence. His aura was special. He truly had an ethereal air. She looked at Ding Tao. Shen Zichuan must really be shorthanded if even you are out running errands. I've been serving as Arya's guard for a few years already. Ding Tao led Jiran before her. This is Venerable Master Yi Deng's last and most trusted disciple. Qi Juyan's heart stirred at the name Yi Deng. Seeing as Jiran was still young, she said after a little hesitation, "My old man has retired for the day. I'll notify the inner courtyard shortly. Someone will come out to receive him." Ding Tao and Jiran bowed in unison. Okay, so we're getting him to treat the father. So it doesn't really seem like Qi Juyan or Hua Shangyi probably themselves sought to make the father ill. But that's a good question though, Blue. Is she hesitating because of hope or ... Yeah, I don't know. The mistress of Qidong is exceedingly intelligent and familiar with accounting, not to mention her exceptional mental arithmetic. Yao Wenyu covered his mouth and coughed. She is the best candidate to parley with Jiang Qingshan. Hua Shangyi, interesting. Shen Zichuan read Ge Qingqing's letter, then turned to Fei Sheng. How long has it been since Luo Mengzheng set out? Almost half a month, Fei Sheng answered. Even if he were riding a tortoise, he should have reached Chudu by now. Shen Zichuan closed the letter. If his motley crew wants to guard the city gate, let them do as they wish. With such a hefty reward as bait, no one can say whether they're brave men or boors. Shen Wei should rest for the next few days. If we push them into too tight a corner, they may be driven to desperate measures. Shen Zichuan didn't fear the 30 or 40,000 unruly soldiers in Chudu. Even if his own numbers fell short, he had Xiao Jiming backing him up. An armored cavalry of 30,000 was enough to intimidate Chudu. Xue Xiuzhuo was formidable, but he commanded no soldiers. Since Chudu wanted to coerce Qidong into mobilizing in their defense, Shen Zichuan would simply have to keep a tight grip on the blade that was Qi Juyan. It didn't matter if he couldn't use her troops. Even if those 300,000 men merely remained in place as decorations, Chudu would have to abandon any hopes that the Qidong garrison troops would march north of Tianfei Watchtower. Shen Zichuan had stationed Hua Lingyun in Dongzhou to keep an eye on things, just in case. Tao Ming has been eating and drinking well in Suzhou since he got here, said Shen Zichuan. Now that he's put on some fat, he ought to start moving too. His folding fan tapped gently against the edge of the table. He's the former prefect of Huaizhou, after all, and as close as family to the people there. I hear there are riots in Huaizhou. Give him a few thousand soldiers from the Zizhou garrison troops, and send him back to quell the unrest. If he does well, he'll be handsomely rewarded. If not, he can leave his entire family in Zizhou under my care. Xue Xiuzhuo wanted to cut Shen Zichuan off from Hezhou, so Shen Zichuan would take Huaizhou from him. Huaizhou was close to Luoxia Pass, which was in turn close to Chuancheng, the hometown of the Xue clan. Together, these three places arced around Chudu, just like the trade route between Huaizhou, Chazhou, and Zizhou. Be it Xue Xiuzhuo or the girl emperor, Everyone had already exposed their greatest weaknesses in their pursuit of the throne. Before the battle in Dancheng, Shen Zichuan presumed he had nothing to worry about. But after Xiao Chengbi's death, the knowledge of Feng Chuan gave him pause. This man was like a thorn stuck in the most inconspicuous of spots, one that had already lodged itself deep in the Empire's flesh. That is the end of the chapter. I'm still very curious as to how Shen Zichuan is supposed to use Feng Chuan as, like, his blade. Especially because we figured out a while ago, right? Feng Chuan was the one who did the donkey roast thing, which was, like, a dig at Shen Zichuan. So I'm trying to, like... That was Feng Chuan, right? So I'm trying to, like, put that together in my head with, like... But he's designated as the blade for Shen Zichuan. And how... Like, what his motivations are. Like, what is going on with that? I have no idea. Oh, girl emperor, or if it just said woman or female emperor. I don't know. Right. Because she's, like, young, but not, like, still a child at this point. I don't actually know how old she is at this point. I don't think she's still, like, a kid. So I don't, yeah. I don't know why it says girl in particular, but, well, we are on page 169 for chapter 274, which is called Unveil. I keep being like, what are these chapter titles? They're making me nervous. The Hmong Luo tribe's territory was close to a copse of desert poplars with vibrant red leaves. From a distance, they looked like they lived in an inextinguishable bonfire in the middle of the desert. The desert poplar was their symbol. They occupied this tributary of the Chasha River, the only source of water in Three Rivers. To the east was barren desert, nothing but sand and sweltering heat. It was here Bayir hosted a feast for Xiao Qie. This is going to be awkward. The chief of the Hmong Luo tribe was a heavy-set man who had grown himself a grizzled goatee. He personally filled Xiao Qie's cup and said, "I've heard of the legend of the wolf. Your armored cavalry is as cold as a hard frost, stampeding through the Chasha sinkhole and crushing Achi's elite scorpions. They feasted in the open air, bathed in moonlight. The desert sky at night was not black, but a rich, deep blue. Even sitting, Xiao Qie's aura was different from the fierceness of the Bian Sha men. He possessed the coldness, arrogance, and carelessness of a noble from Li Bei, an attitude all the more conspicuous after he removed his armor." Well, that's a good point, Blue. I would not eat a single bite prepared by Bayir. Hopefully that does not become an issue. "I thank the Hmong Luo tribe for their praise. I'm willing to form an alliance with you and become brothers who rely on each other, just as we are with the Huiyan tribe," said Xiao Qie. "In that case, why not a marriage alliance?" Bayir looked at Xiao Qie and sighed. "A good man born in the Hongyan Mountains. I know you men from Li Bei are all tough. I truly admire you, and my daughter wishes to marry you. If you're worried your wife at home won't agree, I'm willing to present 500 camels as a gift to appease your mistress of the house." It was women who controlled the household's material wealth in the 12 tribes. As far as Bayir was concerned, if Xiao Qie's wife was a sensible person, then for a gift like that, she should agree to the marriage for the sake of her husband. That's an interesting look into, like, the sort of cultural difference. Like, to Bayir, that just sounds completely reasonable. But then he doesn't know Shen Zichuan, so, far away in Dancheng, Shen Zichuan sneezed quietly. Holding a bowl of medicine, Jigong called from the outer chamber. Chuanar, take your medicine on time. This weather changes on a whim. If you are not careful, you'll get a cough again. Xiao Qie took up the wine Bayir had poured for him. He held his liquor better than most, even sipping on horseback to quench his thirst on the way over. No one could drink him under the table back home. Yet now he seemed to be drunk. His expression was softer than the last time he met with Bayir. It gave Bayir an illusion of opportunity. So maybe he's not getting drunk to like a possibly problematic degree. It's giving him the illusion of opportunity. He motioned for Xiao Qie to look to his right, where his young daughter, her face obscured by a thin veil, sat with her head shyly lowered. Bayir was confident that the Zhou Empire had no girls like her. My Uya is sweet and obedient. She'll care for your wife as a younger sister would. Lu Guangbai cast a glance at Xiao Qie as he cut his beef. Our mistress has no brothers. A younger sister might be a good idea. Xiao Qie's gaze followed Bayir's pointing figure, and the girl hung her head even lower. Uya, Bayir said, come over and toast the leader of the wolf pack. Uya rose from her seat. The tinkling of the intricate ornaments at her waist instantly sent Xiao Qie's mind wandering. He recalled the lesson he had taught Lanzhou in Dunzhou. He had hung a gleaming bell on Lanzhou's ankle that had tinkled when it moved, the sweet sound accompanying Lanzhou's desperate, heedless gasps. Uya came to stand before Xiao Qie. An exotic fragrance hung about her, and when she leaned over, it revealed the fair skin of her neck. Lanzhou's neck was most gorgeous when it was drenched in the rain, soaking in water, and shimmering with sweat. The arch of it was exquisite, curving up or down as his body was held captive. Xiao Qie missed Shen Zichuan terribly, especially now. Did you just say blue? Now I wonder if they spiked the wine with aphrodisiacs. Oh God. Oh, please no. Uya filled a golden goblet to the brim and offered up a toast to Xiao Qie. But when her long lashes lifted to look at him, her eyes flashed with hatred. The golden chain around her waist clinked, as the girl drew a dagger with her slender hand and thrust it towards Xiao Qie's throat. Well, this is not what I was expecting. This turn of events was so sudden that Chen Yang hadn't had an instant to react, but Gu Jin, having heard the discordant jangle of her chain, lurched forward and blurted, Arya. The goblet dropped onto the tabletop, splashing wine everywhere. Xiao Qie didn't touch the girl as he parried her dagger with his arm guard. Thank you, arm guard. The table overturned with a crash, and Uya went rolling with it. The hilt of her dagger slipped from her hand and landed in Xiao Qie's. Before Bayir could recover from the shock, Xiao Qie stood and nailed the dagger onto Bayir's table, a hair's breadth from his hand. Bayir's face turned pale from panic, and he fell to the ground, lucky to still have all his fingers. Xiao Qie wiped away the wine that had splashed onto his arm guard, his eyes clear and sober as he said frostily, I came here sincerely to befriend the Mengluo tribe. But the Mengluo tribe are not the camels they claim to be. They are hypocritical rats who speak honeyed words while hiding swords behind their backs. I think Uya had this planned, and her father was not anticipating it. The other generals at the feast all jolted to their feet. Armored cavalrymen within and without flashed their blades, filling the crimson poplar forest with snow-white light. Tension crackled in the air. No, Bayir had never expected his daughter to do such a rash thing. This wasn't at my behest. Please, King of Wolves, do not be angry. He clambered to his feet and stomped his foot at Uya. I've raised you all these years, and yet this is how you repay me. Uya had lost her veil in the fall. Literally unveil, okay. Rearing up, she spat at Bayir. You betrayed the Esuhuri and offered me to Hassan's mortal enemy. You were not worthy to be my father. I'm gonna be honest, completely valid in her position. Like, if this was a book about her, we would all be like, yes, exactly. On her side, completely. Enraged, Bayir slapped Uya so hard she fell back to the ground. Switching to the Bian Sha tongue, he snapped, hold her down. He turned to plead with Xiao Qia. She has been bewitched by Amor and has lost her mind. She is no longer my daughter. I'm willing to kill her today in front of you. Please don't punish the Mengluo tribe. Can we not do that, though? Can we not? That's not necessary. Xiao Qia's expression didn't change in the slightest. The Li Bei armored cavalry had by now surrounded the Mengluo tribe. Bayir's elites had all been pushed to the periphery. If a genuine fight were to break out, what few people he had wouldn't even slow down the assault of Li Bei's fully armored forces. Bayir had no more power to negotiate. All he could do was draw his guard's saber and raise it high over his daughter. No, please, can we not? Can we, like, tell them we want something else? If they're now in a position they cannot negotiate, now is the time to take advantage of it. But she does not need to die. The pale moon hung high in the sky, where a single Sakar falcon circled overhead. The towering branches of the desert poplars slanted across the moon, while the wind sent Li Bei's wolf banner snapping. Bayir held the saber aloft, unable to bring himself to strike. Oh no, guys. His goatee trembled, and amid the sound of Uya's sobs, he flung down the saber and dropped to his knees before Xiao Qia. A real callback. My goatee is trembling. Xiao Qia secured his arm guard tightly. Behind him, Chen Yang stepped forward to drape his cloak over his shoulders. Setting a hand on the hilt of Wolf's Fang, Xiao Qia looked down at Bayir. I have only this one daughter. Tears streamed down Bayir's aged face. Because we make our home here, the Mengluo tribe has always faced harassment from the other tribes, so I wanted to betroth her to the powerful king of wolves in Li Bei. Amor is old. Who can ensure our survival? Keep your 500 camels. Xiao Qia turned to leave. Save them to use in the Mengluo tribe's trade market. Xiao Qia took a few steps, then looked sidelong at Uya. The night breeze stirred the little braid that had fallen down along Xiao Qia's shoulder. He yanked the dagger out of the table and tossed it before her. You are the one who handed me the lives of the entire Mengluo tribe tonight. Uya's face had turned a ghastly white. The tantalizing fragrance on her had dissipated. She covered her face and wept. Bayir prostrated himself on the ground and proclaimed, the Mengluo tribe will follow the king of wolves across the vast desert. Xiao Qia whistled, and Meng landed on his shoulder. He looked ahead, where the entrance to 3 rivers lay open before him. Moonlight paved a narrow passage leading to his destination. Behind him, the wolf banner of Li Bei rose in the place of the eagle banner of the desert. There's a scene break. And, this is something I was wondering about. How did you guess Uya would try to assassinate you? Lu Guangbai asked as he walked beside Xiao Qia. You said Bayir wanted to marry her to Hassan. Xiao Qia swung astride his horse. He pulled on the reins and paused for a moment. I guessed it had been Uya's own wish. Bayir was so desperate to marry her to me, because she no longer had eyes for any other young men in the desert. I was wondering if you were really drunk, the way you were looking at her. Lu Guangbai followed suit and mounted his own horse. My heart was in my throat the whole time, worried you'd lose your head. Say, when I return, should I be honest in my report to his lordship, or should I leave out a few things? I won't lose my head. Who else in the world could compare to Shen Lanzhou? Xiaoqie turned his horse, letting the wind disperse the heat of the wine. He glanced at Lu Guangbai and said solemnly, "Neither wine nor fragrance work on me. My mind is clear." Lu Guangbai saw how serious he looked and believed it to be true. He couldn't know that in those perilous moments, Xiaoqie had been awash in immodest thoughts about Shen Lanzhou. Xiaoqie changed the subject. If the Mengluo tribe stays out of it, only the Hulu tribe will still be supplying Amur with grain east of the Three Rivers. Dorlin brought the remaining warriors of the Youxiong tribe to support Amur, but even with them, Amur doesn't have many elites left. Hu Helu, Achi, Joril, Hasen, Amur's advanced rider, raider, guard, and general had all been killed in battle. The 6 tribes under him had been on edge since Xiaoqie began his eastern advance. The Mengluo tribe was willing to enter an alliance with him in order to preserve their own lives. His target now was Amur's golden yurt in the heart of the desert. Xiaoqie wanted a clean victory, determined in one battle. After Hasan's death, Bian Shah had withdrawn their troops east. In the past, the Zhou Empire had never pursued their enemy beyond the boundary of the Chasha River. But to Xiaoqie, even if everyone else could be spared, Amur must not live. As the only man who had nearly become the great king of the 12 tribes, Amur was a formidable figure who could fight on equal footing with Xiao Fengshu. What made him more dangerous than Hasen was that he also knew how to play politics. He wanted to do more than fight victorious battles, something he had long delegated to the others. He had spent 20 years painstakingly orchestrating the collapse of a dynasty. Should he be given the opportunity to catch his breath, he would hatch new plans, and his methods would only become more sophisticated and harder to detect. The man must die, or Xiaoqie would never sleep easy. Amur sat on his throne in the golden yurt of the leader of the desert. The flaps hung open, and moonlight shone through the gaps to spill at his feet. He gazed out at the rolling sand dunes. Many years ago, Amur said in a quiet voice, "I led my troops deep into the Zhou Empire, where I met Xiao Fengshu at the foot of the Hongyan Mountains. At that time, he was still a nameless foot soldier. I regarded him as my lifelong adversary. I've beaten him many times, and I've lost to him many times." The aged wise man who had prayed for Hasan's victory sat in the corner of Amur's golden yurt. The withered branch in his hand dropped onto the rug before his knees. In a trembling voice, he said, "You defeated him." In the silver glow of the moonlight, Amur closed his eyes. There was no sign of his age on his face. He looked so dignified, it was as if he had just ascended the throne. "It was my son who killed him. And his son killed your son." The wise man wheezed as he prostrated over the woolen rug. After taking a moment to catch his breath, he pushed away the withered twigs. "But you still have a grandson. Dorlin will bear Hasan a strong, healthy child. We haven't lost this war." Amur gripped the armrests of his throne, looking like a beast lashed down to the seat. His eyes twitched beneath his lids. Eventually, he opened them to look out again at the unchanging dunes. "You said the same thing when I dispatched troops to Luoxia Pass. We walked out of the desert, looking for land we could survive on. But in all these years, the war has never ceased, while the dead have piled high. The Zhou Empire is a tree that has decayed, yet the favor of the heavenly god still does not tilt toward us. Li Bei lost Xiao Fengshu, but in a heartbeat they anointed a new king of wolves. I hear him beating his battle drums as he marches toward my golden yurt. He is younger and stronger than Xiao Fengshu. You are the last ray of morning light our God has bestowed upon the desert, the wise man said staunchly, gathering up those withered twigs. I shall watch you grind this wolf into dust. Amor rose from his throne and stepped out, following the trail of the moon. It's time for the scorpions to move. The wardrobe attendant packed up the cotton-padded coats and hats for Feng Chuan and offered him a paper napkin from the bamboo tray. Feng Chuan wiped his hands and waited for the attendant to speak. The man moved deftly, partially concealed by the darkness. Zhongbo must be defeated before the gates of Chudu. Only with the demise of Shen Zichuan can the dynasty continue to linger on the verge of death as the sun in the east rises again. Shen Zichuan has encountered danger repeatedly in Dunzhou and Duanzhou. Feng Chuan watched the attendant hang the clothes up for scenting with incense overnight. He said quietly, You people have had countless opportunities to kill him, but never managed to do it. He is tougher than expected. The wardrobe attendant put away Feng Chuan's shoes. He knelt and stared up at Feng Chuan. You know that. Feng Chuan bent over and enunciated each word. You are all useless. See, is he pretending like he wants Shen Zichuan dead, and he doesn't? Or does he? I need to understand. Blue, you said, has he infiltrated both organizations? Like, is he also a scorpion? Oh, is he also a scorpion? The flame of the lamp flickered as silence descended over the duty room. I told you 2 years ago not to act rashly. Yet you spread that pox in Chudu and gave Shen Zichuan the opportunity to be promoted, Feng Chuan said darkly. Amor thinks he has the whole game board in sight, but in truth, that man can't see a thing. The wardrobe attendant suddenly straightened and slapped his palm against Feng Chuan's leg. He held a long, thin ear pick between his fingers. That sharp, unexpected object pressed against Feng Chuan's leg, proclaiming its lethality. Enough. The attendant's light brown eyes were fixed on Feng Chuan. Also, who the heck is this attendant? The epidemic also gave Muru her opportunity. Xue Xiuzhuo trusts you today only because you were able to profess your loyalty during that crisis. Now you are standing at the center of everything, and the Emperor herself is within your reach. After this battle, you will be free. Feng Chuan's frigid gaze fixed upon the attendant. He didn't believe a single word of these lies. Since the day he had first fled Chudu, he had been locked in a box, destined never to escape for the rest of his life. Your foolish father is dead. You could have stopped him, but you didn't. The official tucked away the earpick. I told no one of this. Do you understand? Feng Chuan's pale face had taken on a sickly cast in the glow of the lamp. He's not a scorpion. No one could manipulate him. He had gone mad long ago, willing to die for forgotten promises. I merely sent him on his way. You let him take the muskets. Feng Chuan's eyelid twitched, but he maintained his composure as he brushed aside the man's hand. Since he wanted to die, there was no harm in letting him take the counterfeits, was there? You're right. Xiao Changbi was a lunatic. He kept vigil at the Temple of Guilt day and night, and kept an altar at home to pray for forgiveness. To let him die is to fulfill his long-held wish. You are nothing if not a filial son. The wardrobe attendant tidied his robe and stood. It's time to take your medicine. That's the end of the chapter. Now, what medicine is Feng Chuan taking? Is Feng Chuan taking the same type of stuff that Shen Zichuan had been taking? Does it make him look like less strong and intimidating than he would otherwise? That's what I'm wondering. Also, I do wonder if Feng Chuan, like, Feng Chuan being the blade, or the weapon, for Shen Zichuan, it could mean that Feng Chuan will actually secretly be on Shen Zichuan's side. But what it's sounding like to me at this point is that it means that he's someone that Shen Zichuan can use. So even though he might be someone that does not want to be on Shen Zichuan's side, there's some way that Shen Zichuan can use his position to his advantage, even if Feng Chuan, like, completely hates him and, like, wants him dead or something. That's kind of what I'm starting to think is the actual situation, because otherwise I'm just really like, what is going on here? But also, yeah, what if he's not really a eunuch? What if the medication... So taking the medication to look frail and have a higher voice, something like that. It could totally be that. Not, not beating the hormone replacement allegations. Interesting. Well, let's see. What else am I reading? Okay, we're reading to 276. So, yeah, okay. So now is the perfect time to take a break. Wait, though, Vase, don't tell me that, because I haven't watched, the rest of that show. So, I don't want to know. I don't want to know about that character. But, 2 more chapters, right? Yes. So, yeah, I'm going to take a break now. When we come back, we will be on page 179 for chapter 275, which is called Gamble. I am both loving and hating these one-word chapter titles because it just kind of sets me, like, thinking, like, what is the gamble? What is going to happen? I'm concerned. Oh, Vase, it's okay. I think you can delete chat comments. You might want to do that. I just don't want, like, anybody to be spoiled for anything, but it's totally fine. Yeah, like, Blue, you're starting to feel nervous because of the titles. They're just, it's like, the titles, I feel like, I'm not imagining it. I feel like the titles are, like, kind of, not devolving, but, like, going down into, like, a more, they're more vague, but, like, pointed at the same time. I don't know, it's just concerning. Yeah, they're creating pressure. It's just, I love it. I love the chapter title thing. This is why I'm disappointed when I read a Danmei and there are no chapter titles. I always want there to be chapter titles, because it's more fun that way. But yeah, time for about a 10-minute break, and when I come back, we will be on Gamble. And I am back. Hello, everyone. Oh, Henry, you noticed the grain quote. It seems grain is a headache for everyone. After all the beautiful quotes about life and love. Yeah, I do love the placement of that one as well. Um, oh, Vase, I'm sorry to hear that about CG. Um, and no worries also about, like, you feel free to say stuff in the chat. Um, oh, Henry, you listened to most of Hades Town today. And the quote about Shinzo not even letting the King of Hell take his husband hit hard. Yeah, that's real. I need to check out Hades Town at some point. So, okay. Where we are on page 179 for chapter 275, which is called Gamble. And I am concerned. Chudu, in the 11th month, was dreary under an unbroken spell of wet weather. Defensive weapons clustered all along the city walls. The capital troops held themselves apart from the ragtag band of soldiers Luo Mu had brought from Chazhou, creating a distinct division between the two. When Luo Mu stepped into Chudu, he was no longer the obsequious and servile man he had been a few years ago. Chudu now depended on him for support. Chen Zhen personally came to greet him when he entered the city. Now he wore a brand new official's robe as he stood atop the city wall with Chen Zhen and looked out into the distance toward Dancheng, holding an umbrella against the drizzle. The other 7 cities' garrison troops are being transferred back to Chudu. They should be here in the next few days. We can assemble 50,000 soldiers for you. Chen Zhen braced his hands on the battlement, huffing white clouds into the cold air. The capital troops' armory will be made available to you too. Defend the walls for as long as you can. Luo Mu might have been a civil official, but when he was sent to Chazhou, he had reorganized the city's armory and fought the local bandits. He was no stranger to military affairs. Hand steady on the umbrella, he said, "Shen Zichuan is no general. He defended Duanzhou only because he had no choice. With only 20,000 Duanzhou garrison troops under his command, it will be impossible for him to breach Chudu." Chudu had sealed the city gate on the east side, where the commoners who had fled Dancheng were all gathered. As Chen Zhen and Luo Mu spoke, they looked down toward the foot of the city wall, packed with refugees. "There's one thing I'd like to ask you to report to Her Majesty." Luo Mu pointed down at the milling commoners. "Shen Zichuan has the habit of buying the hearts of the people. If these refugees cannot enter the city and find a place to settle down, then once the snow falls, he will think of a way to aid them, then use the opportunity to spread word of his benevolence to all and sundry. When that happens, it will be a blow to the imperial court." Cai Yu had lost to Shen Zichuan in Chazhou because of this so-called benevolence. He who rescued another from certain death was as good as a second parent, giving them a fresh chance at life. Using this tactic, Shen Zichuan had even cleared himself of the stain of Shen Wei's defeat. So why shouldn't Chudu follow his example? In Jueshi, they were still talking about Shen Zichuan's timely aid to drought-stricken Yongcheng. If Chudu couldn't turn the tables before winter, they would lose this battle before a single soldier drew his blade. "In your opinion," Chen Zhen said with a look at Luo Mu, "what should we do? Chudu is already overcrowded. There are people sleeping in the public ditches on Donglong Street. If we take in any more refugees, we will be breaking the regulations of the Yemen in Chudu. Even if we welcome them, we can't afford to feed them." "Take in the refugees we can use," Luo Mu said. "Look, most of them are young and strong. Why not enlist them into the army? If they can inflict a crushing defeat on Zhongbo, the imperial court will not skimp on their rewards." "Yeah, no, I hate that blue, same. What's this bit of grain today? If everyone tightens their belts, there will be enough to go around." Luo Mu didn't balk at making such a bold suggestion. After all, he had already borrowed grain for his own men when he had marched through Hezhou. "Look, Your Excellency." Luo Mu raised his hand and pointed east. "Cizhou is critical to Shen Zichuan's plans. He established a large granary there on the trade route between Huaizhou, Cizhou, and Chazhou, which allows him to supply the northeast provisions trail to the north and provide relief for Chazhou's natural disasters to the south. If we can wrest Cizhou from his control, it will be a massive victory for us. His deployment to Dancheng has already stirred panic and unease among the cities in the west, but even he will need time to regroup. He can't act rashly. We are different. Whenever we wish, we can send our troops out to crush the rebels. We merely lack the right opportunity." Chen Zhen looked at Luo Mu. "This opportunity has been difficult to find." "Not as hard as you think. After all, Shen Zichuan is Shen Wei's son. He enters Chudu with his eyes on the throne. If he succeeds, the most condemned sinner of our age, Shen Wei, will be enshrined and worshipped in the imperial ancestral temple." Luo Mu looked back at Chen Zhen and smiled. Who would agree to that? As you said, Blue, yes, keep underestimating him. Oh, Henry, you said they'll be releasing the pro shot of Hades Town to rent online soon. I will definitely check that out then. Persuasion. Li Jianting glanced over her shoulder. We are at war. If something happens to the students, how will you answer for it? Your Majesty. Luo Mu prostrated himself on the wool carpet. Shen Zichuan is shrewd and sophisticated. He is certain to have a plan to win the hearts of the people. If we merely sit still and resign ourselves to fate, the situation may devolve rapidly. At that point, it will be difficult to recover. Furthermore, Jiang Wanxiao's negotiations with Qidong are also affected by the news out of Chudu. I believe a battle of words is our best course right now. Luo Mu hadn't mentioned the other important reason. As time went on, it was becoming increasingly difficult to convince the people of Li Jianting's legitimacy. If they dragged this out any longer, Gao Zhongxiong would surely deal them another blow. It would be too late then for Chudu to win back the hearts of the people of Dancheng, whom Shen Zichuan had mollified. Your Majesty, we have already lost the initiative in Dancheng, Chen Zhen put in. If we can score a victory without deploying a single soldier, it would do much to boost morale in Chudu. When facing a formidable enemy, we must unite against it, Kong Qiu said after some contemplation. If we can stir the hearts of the common folk in the southwest, it won't be impossible to hold the line this winter. It's widely said in Chudu that Shen Zichuan is a petty and narrow-minded man, said Li Jianting. But that is only a rumor. The way he has behaved in Dancheng is unhurried and composed. If you're thinking of using words to goad him into deploying troops, it's unlikely to work. This is not a trap meant for Shen Zichuan, said Luo Mu, composing himself and looking up. But for Yao Wenyu. Great. Now we're thinking about how to trap Yao Wenyu. I don't like it. Yao Wenyu was Shen Zichuan's strategist. Not only had he summoned the talented men of the world for Shen Zichuan, he had also played a pivotal role in implementing the census register in the 6 prefectures. More importantly, he had advised Shen Zichuan to take in all those former ministers from Chudu. Gao Zhongxiong and others like him had been granted a chance to shine. All thanks to Yao Wenyu's discerning eye. Without Yao Wenyu, Shen Zichuan's administration in Zhongbo would never have expanded to such proportions. Kong Qiu and Sen Yu had both been students of Hai Liangyi. Hearing Luo Mu mention Yao Wenyu, they couldn't help but turn away. Even now, Sen Yu had sympathy for Yao Wenyu as a man of talent. He said, I hear Yuan Zhuo has been in ill health ever since arriving in Zhongbo. If Lord Sen is right, Luo Mu said, we'll line up the scholars at the foot of the city walls to persuade them to surrender. If Yao Wenyu doesn't dare come forward to refute them, Zhongbo's morale will plummet, and Shen Zichuan will be seen as a coward. But if Yao Wenyu does come, having to face his former home will surely quash his arrogance. Sen Yu jerked to his feet and pointed at Luo Mu. You're truly, and he doesn't say this out loud, ruthless. Yao Wenyu was seriously ill, and dragging along 2 injured legs besides. By demanding that he make his way to the city wall to respond to the scholar's criticism, Luo Mu meant for him to face his former acquaintances and reveal his feeble state to the world. Look, as recently as 2 years ago, this man was still the unpolished jade, renowned throughout the land. If we can deal a blow to Yao Wenyu, Luo Mu said, bowing deeply to him, Shen Zichuan will no doubt feel the effects. He did not spell out the details. The students would be unarmed when they faced off against tens of thousands of Zhongbo troops. If Yao Wenyu was humiliated by the students, the garrison troops would be indignant. Weapons had no eyes. The Dunzhou garrison troops only had to mistakenly injure the students in the heat of the moment, and Shen Zichuan's virtuous name would go up in smoke. Li Jianting examined Luo Mu. For a chance at victory, this man would go to such lengths and set such a vicious trap. He was truly perfidious and cold-hearted. I like the word perfidious. Feng Chuan snuck a sidelong glance at Xue Xiuzhuo, who had been keeping his head down at the back of the room. Not a moment later, just as Feng Chuan expected, Luo Mu said, "Lord Xue has always enjoyed a prestigious reputation among the students, and you studied in the same academy under the same teacher as YAO WENYU. Your Excellency is the best candidate for this gambit." Xue Xiuzhuo stood up silently. YAO WENYU has done so much to assist Shen Zichun, even with his broken legs and failing body. He is no longer merely a distinguished young master who frequents philosophical symposiums. In setting this trap, you actually want the whole world to watch former peers scrabble vilely at each other's throats. He looked at Li Jianting. "I do not agree." Feng Chuan hid his small smile behind the business of pouring tea. Li Jianting gazed at Xue Xiuzhuo with an odd expression. In that moment of silence, she said reassuringly, "Of course, we couldn't bear to subject you to such hardship either. There is still no news from Jiang Wanxiao. Let the Grand Secretariat choose some promising students for this match." Raindrops drummed against the eaves, their pattering giving rise to something else. I think we're getting a flashback situation. Where exactly did you come from? This was what Li Jianting had asked Feng Chuan that night. Kneeling in the fathomless shadows, Feng Chuan had replied, "This humble servant was originally the nephew of an official in Jincheng. The guilty former official, Shao Chengbi, was my maternal uncle." Now, is he telling the truth? Or is that actually his father and he's not telling the truth about it for some reason? "My mother's family was implicated in the incident and sent into exile in Zhongbo, where I was born. Later, when Lord Yanqing searched the land for former officials, he saved this humble servant from ruin and brought me back to Chudu." He raised his head and said, timid and a little helpless, "My uncle and I were as close as father and son, so I was willing to enter the palace in the hope of someday getting justice for him. Under the guidance of Lord Yanqing, I've served 2 emperors and 1 empress dowager in the palace. Until your majesty, I've been most prudent. Xiande, Tianchen, the empress dowager, all dead in the struggle for power. Of them, the death of the Tianchen emperor, Li Jianheng, was most suspect. Muru's assassination of the emperor had been no secret in the Shui manor. Yet Xue Xiuzhuo had never replaced Feng Chuan, and still had him serve Li Jianting. You report all the minute details of my life to him." Li Jianting leaned closer. "Is Xue Yanqing keeping an eye on me because he fears I won't do a good job as emperor?" Feng Chuan didn't dare to answer. Li Jianting stared at him for a long time. Did Muru act on Han Cheng's orders, or Xue Xiuzhuo's? Before Feng Chuan could look away, Li Jianting gripped his chin and loomed close. "He's been watching me ever since I entered the palace." Li Jianting laughed and said mockingly, "No wonder he dares to be a lone minister. The life of the emperor is in his hands." It was a life Xue Xiuzhuo would relinquish without regret. He could bear to sacrifice even himself. Naturally, he could bear to sacrifice others. Shao Chengbi wants to overturn the verdict of that old case. Li Jianting released Feng Chuan and said coldly, "Only we can do that." We as in her self, her emperor self. Qi Shiyu lay on the bed. His hair had turned whiter. Illness had worn him down. There was no trace left of the man who had once spurred his horse tirelessly through Chudu, or swept women off their feet with his charisma. Drool pooled at the corner of his lips. Qi Juyin wiped it with her handkerchief. Jiang, Qi Shiyu gasped. Jiang Wanqiao will arrive soon. Talk to him. We will send troops to Chudu. Qi Juyin rolled up her sleeves. Rinsing the handkerchief in the copper basin by the bed, she said, We'll see. Qi Shiyu's chest heaved as he turned his eyes to her. When you are celebrated for protecting the emperor, you will be the reign of Shengyin's. 2 borders and 3 prefectures have already risen in revolt. Qi Juyin focused on washing the handkerchief. How long can the Shengyin emperor remain on her throne? With only 10,000 capital troops, she can't even step out from behind the walls of Chudu. Juyin. Qi Shiyu raised his voice. Unfilial daughter. Qi Juyin wrung out the handkerchief and said nothing. Also, yeah, Blue, when you said it sounds like Feng Chuan was letting the emperor reach her own conclusions, I see what you're saying. I kind of feel that too. Tears soaked Qi Shiyu's temples. His lips quivered, and his next words were choked with sobs. You've ruined the Qi clan's name. After this, you won't even be able to be laid to rest in the ancestral tomb. The setting sun at the window shone upon Qi Juyin's back. She dried the handkerchief as if she hadn't heard him. If Shen Zichuan fails, Qi Shiyu sighed, shedding bitter tears. Can you alone atone for the entire Qi clan? Everyone in the world will hate you. You altered my message. Oh, his message. Oh, she's the one who altered the letter that he was writing, or maybe that her brother took down for him. Uh-huh. Okay, that checks out. Qi Juyin smoothed out her handkerchief and looked past the scattered shadows of the window lattice, gazing out at the overlapping flowers and plants. After a moment's silence, she said, If Shen Zichuan fails, report to Chudu how I falsified your message and coerced my brother to write the letter. Kong Boran is a smart man. He would rather kill only me to ensure your survival. Qi Shiyu's message to Chudu had been a fake. What had been delivered was something Qi Juyin had forced her older brother of common birth to write with the blade to his neck. But there was really nothing was there really nothing Qi Shiyu could do about it? He had let it happen, hoping to leave the Qi clan a way out. If Shen Zichuan were to lose, Qi Shiyu could still hand over Qi Juyin in exchange for the lives of the entire clan. The moment Qi Juyin made up her mind to remain south of the Tianfei watchtower, she had ceased to be a daughter of the Qi clan. The freedom Qi Shiyu had given her applied only to the interests of the family. If she could no longer bring them honor and glory, she was no different from her good-for-nothing common brothers. Qi Juyin didn't stay long. She hung out the handkerchief to dry and withdrew from the room. Several of her brothers were waiting under the eaves, but none dared raise their heads to look at her. She took a banisher from Qi Wei and ignored them too. As he followed Qi Juyin out of the courtyard, Qi Wei whispered, Lord Jiang should be here soon. Is the mistress ready? Qi Juyin asked. Qi Wei looked past her and opened his mouth, but did not speak. Qi Juyin followed his gaze and saw the maid Hong Ying raise the curtain of a sedan. Hua Xiangyi had arrived, and was lifting the hem of her skirt to step out. Qi Juyin didn't know what possessed her to move past Hong Ying and offer her arm instead. And there is art of this exact thing. She said, I'm giving her my arm. Hold on, I need my camera. Yep. How cute. I was nervous seeing that there was art on the next page, but it turns out we got good art. Nothing's going down yet. Wrapped in a refreshing scent of white flowers, Hua Xiangyi set a slender palm on Qi Juyin's arm, only belatedly realizing who supported her once her feet touched the ground. Well, hello. Wanting to say something but too tired to be eloquent, Qi Juyin blurted as her gaze fell on Hua Xiangyi. What a pretty flower. Hong Ying, standing off to the side, raised a hand to her lips and coughed. A slight blush stole over Hua Xiangyi's cheeks. She released her grip, meaning to shift her hand away, but for some reason she changed her mind and left it on Qi Juyin's arm. The tea pavilion is ready. We'll invite Wan Xiao there when he arrives. There is a screen divider in the middle. Wan Xiao's wife can take a rest there, and we can let Jiran take a look at her. You are the mistress, so I'll leave the arrangements to you. Jiang Qingshan is known for his sharp tongue in Jueshi, so watch that he doesn't speak over you. No matter what, I still hold the military power here. Even if his tongue is made of silver, he won't be able to save Chudu unless he kills me. The upturned tip of Hua Xiangyi's embroidered shoe peeked from under her hem. She smoothed the pleats of her skirt and said with a smile, Never fear. I have my ways. So hello, puffed up Poppin' Jay. Oh, I'm so glad you were awake in time to catch a stream. I love Hua Xiangyi is like what I love about her character is that at first I thought like okay, she's the love interest for Qi Juyin. But I love the role that she's playing in the political game of things as well. She definitely has things up her sleeve also, and she is very, very smart and very shrewd, and I just love that. Shen Zichuan grabbed a handful of Dan Cheng's surplus grain and turned his gaze toward the rest of the granary. This granary has been in disrepair for years. Winter is around the corner, and it's been overcast and rainy for days on end. We can't continue to store the grain here. It will rot. Fei Sheng closed the oil paper umbrella and replied, That's what the gentlemen think too, but now is not a good time. Master, if we move the grain and the commoners of the city think we're taking it for ourselves, all our recent efforts will be wasted. The Dunzhou garrison troops had been stationed here for less than half a month, where they had been forced to be on their best behavior. Fortunately, Shen Zichuan had ample grain, so his men didn't have to go hungry. Although some private resentment simmered among the bottom ranks, there had been no incidents. Many of the common people of Dancheng had fled west, but in doing so, they had blocked Shen Zichuan's path ahead. There isn't much grain left in the city. Yao Wenyu's wheelchair, wet with rain, left tracks behind him wherever he went. The winter looks to be a cold one. Dancheng will need relief. Rather than transferring the grain from here to Zizhou and back, why not distribute the grain to the people here now? The grain in Dancheng was all stock left behind by the Pan clan. It was too much trouble to move the grain with wagons. Distributing the grain locally would not only allay the commoners' fears, but also save a batch of relief grain for winter. Zhongbo's grain reserves were limited. If they were forced to lay a long siege on Chudu, both parties would be playing a game of endurance. Jiang Wanxiao is on his way to Qidong. Luo Mu seized on this to urge the Yan clan to reconsider their allegiance and actually convince them. A few days ago, grain from several cities in Hezhou entered Chudu, and the training grounds at Mount Feng have already been converted into grain storage. The waterways in the south run directly to Hezhou. Master, Chudu means to fight a protracted war with us. It might look that way, but they're still waiting for Jiang Qingshan. Shen Zichuan let the rice stream through his fingers. The Qidong garrison troops are Chudu's lifeline. The Grand Secretariat and Shui Yanqing both know they can't stop us with Luo Mu's 50,000 thugs. In stockpiling their grain, They are staking everything on a single bet. Yao Wenyu opened his mouth to speak, then covered it and coughed instead. Great. There's a draft in here, Shen Zichun said. Fei Sheng, give my cloak to Yuan Zhuo. You can't stand this chilly wind either, master. Fei Sheng motioned for the guard at the door to step forward. Qiao Tianya anticipated that Mr. Yuan Zhuo would forget to bring his own, so he sent someone to deliver it this morning before we stepped out. I've been waiting for Mr. Yuan Zhuo to ask. Well, don't wait for him to ask, just give it to him. He's not going to ask, you just know that he needs it. But that's so sweet. Even after being wrapped in the cloak, Yao Wenyu's coughing did not subside. No one brought up the issue of seeing a physician to him anymore. Although he took his medicine on time, his cheeks were growing more and more hollow. Finally, he managed. Jiang Wanxiao has arrived in Qidong. He was interrupted by a commotion outside. Tantai Hu entered with his blade at his waist, bowed to Shen Zichun, and reported in a gruff voice, Your Lordship, a messenger has arrived from Chudu. He says the court can't bear to see the people plunged into an abyss of misery, that they wish to converse with us. Dozens of students have been sent out of the city gates and are waiting at a platform they built west of the Dancheng city halls. Here we go. Let's hope a fight doesn't start up with the students, because then they will look bad and that will be a whole thing. Your Lordship, at this moment, we are strong and the enemy is weak. What's there to discuss? Might as well get Shenwei to write a declaration of war, and we can fight our way into Chudu and save ourselves the trouble. Wiping his hands, Shen Zichun asked, Is there anyone we know among these people? Chen Shunyi is in the lead. The rest are all students of the Imperial College. Shen Zichun only needed to think for a moment to understand the dangers involved in this gambit. Jiang Wanxiao has arrived in Qidong, Yao Wenyu continued, and the mistress will surely have a long talk with him. If we do not respond, we will look poor before Qidong. Anyway, a prolonged siege was never the ideal strategy. Clutching his handkerchief, he met Shen Zichun's eyes. The opportunity has presented itself. Your Lordship, I'll be back soon. I think they really are going to get Yao Wenyu to appear before all the students. And I don't know if he should be doing that. In Qidong, the sun was shining brightly. Ribbons of steam rose from the tea pavilion. Hua Xiangyi sat primly at the table and served tea with spotless hands. Qi Juyan gestured for Jiang Qingshan to sit. You've come a long way. This is merely to welcome you, so there's no need to be nervous. Please, take a seat. The travel-worn Jiang Qingshan had already changed his clothes in the side hall. Now, as he sat comfortably with his sleeves held together, he didn't refuse her hospitality. With a smile, he said, It is my undeserving honor to be able to drink a cup of tea brewed by the Third Lady. He addressed Hua Xiangyi by her old title. The implication was unmistakable. He did not regard Hua Xiangyi as the mistress of Qidong, but as the former master of Dicheng. This one address widened the distance between them, and it made it clear he was not interested in having this conversation with her at all. Hua Xiangyi cradled her own cup and said softly, The journey is tiring, and your wife is expecting. It wouldn't be proper for you to stay at the relay station. I had them tidy up a courtyard earlier. If you don't mind, please stay here in our home. Her home was the Qi residence, where she ruled over all the affairs of the inner manor. No matter what Jiang Qingshan called her, she was the mistress of the Qi clan's house. Jiang Qingshan sipped his tea, putting a period on their first exchange. It was raining heavily in Dancheng. The whispering hush of the bamboo rose and fell. Chen Yu was waiting fretfully on the newly erected platform when he heard the melody of a flute weaving through the chorus of bamboo. He let out a soft exclamation and watched as an oil paper umbrella made its way through the rain along a winding stream. YAO WENYU advanced up to the boundary line between the two armies. The white donkey he sat on trod through the puddles. The hem of YAO WENYU's green robe draped over his mount's pale flanks, while the scholar's pouch around his waist was the same as ever. Moving through the rain and mist, he looked just as if he had emerged, unchanged, from the past. I left Chudu in quite a hurry and did not get to bid you farewell. YAO WENYU bowed from his seat in the saddle. So here I am now, having received your invitation. Seeing YAO WENYU bow from the back of the donkey, Yu knew the rumors were true. His legs really were broken. A multitude of emotions flooded his chest, and he stood rooted in place, ears buzzing. Yu sighed with great sorrow. You, why subject yourself to such misery? That's the end of the chapter. We have one more chapter today. We're on page 195 for chapter 276, which is called Confrontation in the Rain. Why, indeed? YAO WENYU had no reply to this. He had not come to answer the question of why he was doing this. He knew Chudu's intentions. Everyone in the world had their eyes on him, their admiration dissolving into sympathy. They wanted to look down on him in pity, as if losing his legs meant he had lost the courage to stand before others. It was much harder to live than to die. In the wake of that fateful day, YAO WENYU had seen the future that lay before him. This wasn't the first time he had been on the receiving end of such gazes, and it wouldn't be the last. As long as he lived, he would have to face their pity. It was an agony he could share with no one else, no one at all. Rain dripping off the oil paper umbrella formed a curtain that concealed the green robe within. YAO WENYU appeared so remote that he might as well have been sitting among the clouds. Even when he fell, he remained clean and untainted. There is one state in life that is unbearably elusive. Standing far away on the watchtower, Shen Zichuan spoke to Chao Tianya beside him. That is to be delighted not by external gains, and saddened not by personal losses. And this is a line from the essay Yueyang Tower by Fan Zhongyan, a minister of the Northern Song dynasty. If a person can achieve such equanimity, he is not far from enlightenment. When I first met him, I thought he was such a person, but I later realized I was mistaken. To attain enlightenment was to be devoid of emotions, to be merciless even to oneself. YAO WENYU couldn't do that. He held the people in his heart. He also held a certain person in his heart. He was a wanderer of the mortal world, who only appeared far removed from the dust on the ground, having spent his first 20 years carefree and traversing the land on a donkey. He wasn't aloof. He was living wholeheartedly. Chao Tianya looked out at that thin smear of green, as if looking at a view of emerald willows and jade bamboo on the horizon. He set down his flute and took a swig of his wine, then answered as though intoxicated, "I understand him." The rain continued to fall. YAO WENYU's voice was as clear and resonant as jade. You need not be concerned on my behalf. From where I sit, Chudu is a trapped beast, exhausting the strength of 7 cities to battle to the death with our prefectural governor. It is an unwise strategy. If Shen Zichuan is sincere about his love of the people, Yu replied, he ought to have surrendered long ago instead of proclaiming himself governor. You laid siege to Dancheng, attempted to intimidate Chudu, and threw the people of the empire into panic. His secondary purpose today was to persuade the rebels to surrender. He took a step forward and spoke across the misty rain. If Yuanzhuo is willing to sway him to yield today, I am willing to vouch for him with my own life on the grounds of his benevolent deeds in Zhongbo alone. The situation is clear, and the outcome is a foregone conclusion. Why continue deceiving yourselves? YAO WENYU replied. In order to keep the commoners in the capital from facing this catastrophe, his lordship had stayed put in Dancheng and refused to mobilize his troops. In truth, 120,000 Zhongbo garrison troops are prepared and eager to advance. It will take only a day for them to march out and besiege Chudu. As they say, attacking a walled city is a last resort, to be tried only when all other tactics have been exhausted. And there's a footnote for that. From The Art of War, Chapter 3, Planning an Attack by Sun Tzu. If the girl emperor is willing to open the gates and surrender for the sake of the thousands of commoners in the city, I, too, will vouch for her with my life. You and I have been acquainted for many years. Why make such boasts to me? Zhongbo has only 20,000 soldiers who can be deployed, and Shen Zichun is showing signs of exhaustion merely from guarding the Sizhou granary. Chazhou and Hezhou have surrendered to the empire. It's more than evident that he has lost the hearts of the people and is unable to regain their trust. Chudu is guarded by the 7 cities, and Qidong is its shield, with 300,000 Qidong garrison troops, hardened warriors, every one of them. No one will accept Shen Zichun's usurpation of the Li clan's empire. Your invasion of Dancheng has already sent refugees fleeing to our capital. Yu pointed at Chudu. Before the gates of Chudu are all the people seeking to escape. From the walls you can hear infants wailing at night, and see widowed mothers selling their daughters during the day. If you are truly an army of righteousness, how can you turn a blind eye to their plight? YAO WENYU remained silent. Oh wait, but that's the Qidong garrison troops who are not going to fight for Chudu, right? So he's kind of bluffing as well. I forget if I already just read this just now. YAO WENYU remained silent. A student beside Yu bowed to YAO WENYU and cleared his throat. Not only that, Shen Zichun revolted without cause and brought calamity down on Chudu. Even if his army can breach the city, he will be hard-pressed to win over the masses that way. But it sounds like he's going to win over the masses by giving them food, so... Her Majesty is the legitimate ruler of our empire in name and fact, the only rightful candidate for the throne. The clash of 2 armies will result in countless casualties, so why not make peace today? As long as Zhongbo is sincere in their surrender, Her Majesty, wise and gracious, will surely not pursue the grave offense. They made the whole affair sound perfectly pleasant, but even if Kong Qiu himself had been here, he would not have been able to guarantee their safety after disarming, let alone Yu. YAO WENYU was about to speak when the wind came whistling through the rain, forcing him to cover his mouth and cough. Yu could hardly stand to watch, but the student beside him thought he had gained the upper hand. Yuanzhuo's frailty bolstered him. He took another step forward and boldly raised his voice. The unpolished jade Yuanzhuo has always possessed an unrivaled reputation in Chudu. Everyone knows you came from the Yao clan and studied under Secretariat Elder Hai. What a pity that you failed to live up to both your talent and your mentor's teachings. Instead, you've devoted yourself to serving the Shen clan, turning your back on the will of your forefathers. Yao Yuanzhuo, even an old steed, may still hope to run 1,000 miles. Yet you've given up and submitted to a treacherous rebel. I lament the waste of your talents, and even more, that the Secretariat Elder entrusted his legacy to the wrong man. Looking at your feebleness today, a far cry from the spirited presence you once possessed, I exhort you to recognize the error of your ways and turn back from this futile path. Raindrops darkened the wooden railing and soaked Shen Sichuan's robes. He tucked the folding fan under his sleeves to keep it dry. From his place on the watchtower, he looked out at the green bamboo, but could only see part of Yao Wenyu's figure through the stalks. When Shen Zichuan had still been in Shudu, he had once said to Xiao Qie that, if pressed to choose, he would pick Xue Xiuzhuo over Yao Wenyu. Standing alone far above the mundane world, Yao Wenyu was not made for rolling in the muck. He was so good. So when pain had at last struck him, it had struck him a lifetime's worth. The students' morale soared. They crowded onto the platform, all trying to impart words of wisdom to Yao Wenyu. Yao Wenyu's coughing had subsided. His expression remained unchanged, as if he'd expected this. Shen Zichuan had no lack of capable wordsmiths under his command. Kong Ling, for instance, had been an especially eloquent master of debate as a student. Yet Shen Zichuan had still agreed to let Yao Wenyu go. As the friend who understood him best, he knew Yao Wenyu didn't need pity, not one bit. Luo Mu set this trap hoping to kill Yuan Zhuo. Shen Zichuan tilted his head slightly, his jade earring coldly reflecting the light. But he'd have to be worthy of it first. To belittle Yao Wenyu was to belittle Shen Zichuan. Many of the advisors under Shen Zichuan's command possessed both integrity and ability. Yet Yao Wenyu had remained secure in his position at the top. 2 years ago, he had been a wretched figure as he fled the capital. But that was 2 years ago. Now he was the premier advisor of Shen Zichuan, the overlord of Zhongbo. I love their friendship so much, too, I agree. The platform had become noisy. The students' voices blended into the heavy rain, buried under the rustling of bamboo. As the cool breeze blew past, Yao Wenyu moved aside the handkerchief covering his lips. You advise me to realize the error of my ways and turn back from my path, he said. But I would advise all of you to consider your own mistakes and seek the salvation at hand. Yao Wenyu's voice was clear and mellow, as if his earlier coughing was merely a short respite he took in the rain. I ask you, Mr. Xunyi, why did my teacher work himself to exhaustion, then remonstrate with the emperor to his death? To deter lowly wretches and set right the hierarchy of the world, Zenyu answered. As the wind rose, Yao Wenyu at last revealed his edge. That could not be further from the truth. My teacher thought of nothing but the people's welfare. He aimed for stability and always considered the will of the people. He put them first in everything he did, always regarding them as the foundation of the state. Now you are upsetting the hierarchy of the world and turning your back on the people for your own selfish interests to preserve your positions in the imperial court. Chen Xunyi, Kong Boran, Xue Yanqing, how can any of you face my teacher ever again? He had rarely looked so solemn, and his words were so sharp, Zenyu staggered back and rasped, We... Still perfectly composed, Yao Wenyu continued. Let me ask you again. Of the 4 objectives my teacher strove for in life, root out the poison ailing the empire, return the fields to the farmers, secure the livelihoods of commoners, and rectify the hierarchy of society, which have you achieved? Zenyu was beginning to lose steam. The field taxes from Dancheng, Tuancheng, Wucheng, and Dicheng have all been recovered, and the fields in those 4 cities have been returned to the people with taxes reduced. For these cities, it is now a time of rest and recuperation. To make up for Chuancheng's field taxes, the Hulian Marquis allowed the local gentry to extort their farmers. The fields have been returned, but they are now barren ground being passed off as fertile farmland. Migrants are still flowing out of the 4 cities in an unending stream. Suzhou is packed past its capacity. These so-called accomplishments are inconsequential measures. They do not strike at what's crucial. Even the grain you distribute as aid was graciously granted by our prefectural governor. Senyu had never expected YAO to make his case so harshly. His accusations regarding the Chuancheng fields were all true. It was because of the rebel threat that they'd had to temporarily halt the investigation, and now it had become a blade in YAO's hand. The student beside Senyu reacted swiftly. What nonsense! You betrayed the sovereign and brought dishonor on your teacher. You are a useless man eking out a shameful existence in a wheelchair, gasping his last breaths. What have you done? What can you do? The donkey under YAO inched forward, and YAO answered, I am but a strategist. How can I overstep my authority? The student broke out in laughter. That's just an excuse. You've done nothing at all. Lord Shui denounced the nobles and held up the reign of Li. He is revered by all in Dancheng, Chuancheng, and the other cities. You question how these men could face the Secretariat Elder. But YAO, it seems to me you are the one who's ashamed to face your teacher. YAO's umbrella swayed slightly. He laughed, too, but it was a laugh that left no mark. It vanished entirely once it faded, without a hint of glee. One must perform the duties required of one's position. Is it not expected for you to advocate for the people when you live on the emperor's salary? I can't compare to Shui Yanqing when it comes to administering Chudu and keeping the empire in balance. He is a minister, while I am but a strategist. His eyes dimmed. The twinkling starlight in them died out, leaving behind a heavy, pitch-black night. My lord navigated these turbulent times among all manner of capable and ambitious men, first quashing the scourge of banditry in Chazhou and Suzhou, then sweeping the 6 prefectures clean of their sufferings. He established a thriving trade route between north and south, and spared no effort to help Li Bei's armored cavalry stamp out the foreign threat. In 2 years, he has recovered lost lands within our own nation, reinforced our borders, and secured the livelihoods of the people. Under his leadership, tens of thousands of acres of fertile land in 3 prefectures have been opened to farming. Not a single patch of barren land is left within their borders. He implemented the Yellow Register and recorded each household. He sought wise advice from those around him and drew virtuous talents from every region, never letting status or history cut short a great man's future. What's more, he boldly rode out at the front of the troops to defend the city gates of Duanzhou. The rain pattered on his umbrella like the urgent beat of battle drums. In assisting a virtuous lord, I am no more than ephemeral clouds in the sky, gathering and dispersing without hesitation. I can be without name, without virtue, without merit, but my master, YAO was as steady as a mountain, each word ringing clear, must shine in history for 1,000 autumns. Strategists and ministers were both men who supported virtuous masters. I can be without mane. No, that's... Imagine that is what he said. YAO belittled his own achievements to exalt Shen Zichuan because he was Shen Zichuan's strategist. He schemed for empire and reputation, not for himself, but for his master. With every word he spoke, he turned the question on everyone from Chudu. What has Li Jianting done? If a master had no achievements to their name, it was a mark of their retainer's incompetence. Senyu struggled to push on. For all your eloquence, you can't hide the illegitimacy of Shen Zichuan's origins. His father, Shen Wei, failed the 6 prefectures. If he enters the city, everyone will have to pay their respects to that shameless traitor Shen Wei. No, they literally won't. I hate this argument so much. Like, he doesn't like his own father, so what? And are Li Jianting's origins legitimate? YAO countered. How dare you? Seeing Yao Wenyu so calm, securely holding the upper hand, the students flushed with indignation. How dare you utter Her Majesty's honorable name? Yao Wenyu raised his voice over the rain. Who here can prove Li Jianting's legitimacy? You? Shui Yanqing? You revere her as your lord. You kneel and prostrate yourselves before her. Yet you can't ensure her authenticity. Is this not the most ridiculous joke? Lord Shui has the late emperor's verification in writing. The students had been thrown into disarray, and they faltered. An auspicious omen descended from the heavens when Her Majesty was born. That can't be wrong. It can't be. You can't prove it. Yao Wenyu suppressed a cough. But I can. Sen Yu felt a chill come over him as he gazed at Yao Wenyu's fluttering green robe. All at once, he felt that the man before him was not his old acquaintance, Yuan Zhuo, but an enemy from Zhongbo. That's the end of the chapter. That's where we stop reading today. How can he prove it? I didn't know that this was information that Yao Wenyu and Shen Zichuan actually possessed, like, concretely. I thought it was just, like, you know, they think that she's not legitimate, but they don't really know, right? Like, but they can prove it? He can prove it? Unless he's bluffing. I don't know. Well, when we come back on Wednesday, we'll be on chapter 277, which is called Clash. I don't like that it's called Clash. I don't want Yao and Yu to be in the middle of that clash. That's a problem. Now, Shen Zichuan sounds like he's not going to let anybody mess with him, but I'm just concerned because Shen Zichuan is watching from, like, a ways away, so, like, I don't know. This is an interesting place to be. I am glad that we're ending here on a Monday and not a Wednesday, because I do need to know what happens, like, soon. And we are now at exactly, like, the halfway point of the novel, so that's fun. That's exciting. And scary. Oh yeah, Blue, like you said, the fact that they thought that Yao and Yu would go through all of that and still be the same naive and otherworldly boy. Like, he's changed too. Henry, I'm so sorry. You almost said earlier if this ends on a cliffhanger. Yeah, it kind of did. Yeah, get Yuan Zhuo out of there, please. Because it is troubling. Because it's true that it could make Shen Zichuan and his people look bad if they get in a fight with the students who are unarmed. And the students thereby are basically being used as, like, kind of like a human shield. It's just messed up. The only thing that's holding me together is I don't think that they'll kill Yao and Yu before he talks to Shui Shoujuo. Blue, that's what I'm hoping too. I need us to have our big confrontation between them. Like, I don't know, just something. But yeah, it seems like the students have been used, like, a lot of times. Like, that seems to be one of the things happening in this novel a lot. All the way back, like, early on, like, when there was the student revolt. It's like, no one ever really has the students' best interests in mind. They're just trying to use public opinion, or they're trying to use them to sway public opinion to kind of create, like, manufacture situations to get their way. I don't like it. And I have so many question marks about Feng Chuan and what is going on with that. How is he the Blade? And I noticed something, which is in that letter that Shen Zichuan wrote to Xiao Qie. He seemed confident about, like, oh, I have a blade. And like, something about, like, I know how to use it. Or, like, he had some idea of, like, what he's going to do with that, as in with Feng Chuan. And I'm like, so what is your idea? And why are you not sharing it with the class? Because I need to know. But yeah, Thank you so much, everybody, for coming to the stream. And I will see you on Wednesday when we find out what the heck is going down. Have a good one.